Hello and welcome to Y Media Political Sensex. I'm your host Ramona Singh, and today we have a special interview with Deputy Mayor and Regional Councillor of Ward 3 and 4, Martin Medeiros. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you very much. It's always an honor to be here on Y Media, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Martin, have you put in your papers for re-election since it's open now?
Not as of yet, and there's no sort of reason behind it. Just essentially, I've been really focused on work, and notwithstanding deputy mayor, I am the chair of planning and economic development at the city of Brampton, and also the chair of human services at the region. So the accumulation of those leadership roles, notwithstanding my role on the police services board, I've been really focused on work, and obviously, eventually over time, I will be putting in my papers to participate in this upcoming municipal election.
It is a busy time, and you're right, it is an election right now in Ontario, as the PCs and the NDP have made a lot of election promises specifically for Brampton, talking about 3 hospitals. The PCs are talking about Highway 413. There's also the Stellantis plant in Brampton that has just received investments, as well as the Windsor plant, $3.6 billion in upgrades of EV production. The NDP are talking about lowering auto insurance almost 40%, which is a big deal for Bramptonians. What are some of the priorities at the city level that you'd like to hear them talk about?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think some of the parties, they've done their homework, and they know Brampton's a community that's been underserved and under funded for many years. And it's not a problem just over the last 4 years. It's historically, over the last 30, 40 years. And we need to, especially with the population growth, we need to really address those issues. So, just not by ranking by order, but some of the priorities. One is healthcare. And we especially saw during COVID how our system was challenged. When you have a health system and healthcare in Brampton, where Brampton residents were not getting its fair share, where spending is almost 34% less than what other communities receive. That means that certainly Brampton residents didn't get the same healthcare support. And during COVID, when you started seeing holes in our healthcare system, Brampton residents had to face precarious issues and precarious lack of hospital infrastructure, where in other communities, healthcare needs were met in a stronger way. So that's certainly number one, I think, is on people's mind. Auto insurance continues to be an issue, and we did see that we are no longer paying the highest rates in Ontario. We're at, I believe, number 4. It doesn't give us reason to be happy, but certainly, there was some recognition, and those rates are coming down. I'm a little bit skeptical on how a government can reduce it by 40%. However, I do respect that a party can, especially when you're dealing with market forces and dealing with a body, even though the province regulates it. Not sure, how the government can interact with, market forces. So I would love to see that sort of come fruition. Regarding other priorities, the city of Brampton, obviously flood mitigation, which is commonly known as Riverwalk. Flood mitigation really unlocks the potential for development downtown Brampton. So I do know that people still don't have clarity on what flood mitigation means, or what Riverwalk means. Essentially, what we want to do is, because we have water channels in our downtown and flooding issues, we can't we can't make it more dense. We can't put more buildings, attract more businesses. So one of the keys to be able to do that is to deal with flood mitigation, similar to what they do in San Antonio. And that's why, they called it the Riverwalk, and we sort of adopted that name. But essentially, we're talking about flood mitigation. So that's a huge issue. Another issue that I hear, sitting on the police services board, and predominantly lastly, is I hear a lot about crime and safety issues. And I know, the community in Brampton wants to see a government, again, regardless of what party, really sort of provide the supports and the tools that our police forces can use. So in this case, Peel Regional Police. And probably in Brampton's case, and I know there will be discussing university, so funding of post-secondary education, I think that's always very important for the residents of Brampton. So, those seems to be are consistently over the last 48 years have been consistent with the city of Brampton has prioritized in terms of what they seek support from the provincial government. And, just lastly, the general comment we would want, we know that for a government to be formed by majority, 905, they really have to be successful in Peel and in Mississauga, and especially in Brampton. So for them to get a majority, they have to pick up seats and really try to sweep Peel, and certainly Brampton residents look towards a provincial government, whoever's elected, that will address some of those needs that we just highlighted.
Absolutely, it is an election time, and June 2nd, Ontarians will elect a new government. And speaking of the election right now, you have Councillor Ward 7 and 8, Charmaine Williams, who's also running for the PCs, and you also have Mayor Patrick Brown running for the leadership of the Conservative Party that will elect a new leader September 10th. What are some of the impacts on a city level, given that you have, two key members who are seeking other positions, and given that in Mississauga, the councillor there, Deepika Dermala, who is running right now for the Liberals in this election for Mississauga East Cooksville, she took a leave of absence without pay. So, would that have been a better thing to do, given that it would have created clear guidelines at a city level, or, what are some of the impacts you're seeing right now?
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And under the Municipal Act, it certainly allows, for those seeking office, higher office, to remain until, if they get elected, they then take the leave of absence. But then after, the other question is, in terms of transparency and accountability and clarity to residents, because it does become a little bit of a concerning to the residents in terms of who's attending, who's still, how do they know that they're still doing their job? What's the focus, and so on. I won't speak on behalf of the decisions by my colleagues, and certainly it is an exciting proposition, be it for one who could be a leader of a major party and one step away from being a prime minister, and then we have another another individual who I have a lot of respect for, who could form and be part of a party that could form government and have some influence there for Brampton. I just think in these cases, me personally, I probably would have taken a leave of absence and make it, just clear for the residents of Brampton, so they understand, one's duties and one's roles. And but again, I do think that the challenge is that, the focus, from the municipality, it seems like we're getting caught up in all these elections, and we have to do our due diligence, and that's why we came up with the positions of deputy mayor, between myself and deputy mayor, Councillor Fortini, for us to provide some of that leadership, and plug in, where we can, to support Mayor Brown when he's not available. So that's tough on not only us, it's tough also for staff, and trying to get decisions, and we just proceed. But I do recognize what Deepika Demerla, Councillor Demerla, did in Mississauga probably was probably the best approach that I myself probably would have followed.
Yes, and in this election, as the Brampton University is something that we've been talking about and hearing about for so long, I want to ask you about the University of Guelph Humber campus potentially coming to Brampton, which would bring about 5,000 students to Brampton. It would be adding $94 million to the city's GDP annually, and generate another $64 million in labor income every year. But from council, they're saying that that could also mean a 4 to 5% tax increase. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so it is an exciting proposition to have a major institution like Guelph Humber interested in coming to the city of Brampton. With that said, and my comments in council, when we talked about, and I've been very consistent on, the question is not so much, do you support the university or not? The question is, can we afford the university or not? I think that's the key question, because to move a major institution to come, as residents of Brampton might know, with our budget, we delivered 4 tax freezes, and I would say 4 tax freezes is one thing, but one of them, I've been critical about the fact that if you want to bring a tax freeze, then you have to bring restraint and financial discipline on the spending side. So you can't, do a tax freeze, but continue to spend like we haven't had a tax freeze. And that's unfortunately what's been some of the issues. So if some of the counselors who really wanted a university then should have been really focused on the financial sort of management of the city. And you can't basically say, okay, here's 4 tax freezes. Let's continue to spend money. And at the same time, let's grab money and now support this university. And I can't reveal details because I know that's going to be ongoing negotiations or discussions in camera. But there is a financial ask, and it does have impact, and we have to find out where we're going to get those fundings. So if we've done sort of already to less, lack of a better term, we've already stretched where we could to provide, on one aspect, we want to be competitive with other jurisdictions, and we provided a zero. We really haven't, and I remind everyone all the time, not to sound like a broken record, when you say zero, that means you're actually going in the hole negative 0.23, 2.5 based on what the rate of inflation is. So you have to come up with those savings of 2.5 on an annual year. So there has to be restraint from hiring perspective. There has to be restraint on spending side. We can't be giving, free transit, free this and free that, because, the buck is going to stop somewhere. And there, to avoid other terminologies, is that, chickens are going to come home to roost. And we're right now in a situation where how are we going to do all these great things moving forward? The other question I said, so, very clear, a university coming to Brampton is great. For us to build the innovation center was around 40 million a couple years ago. We put it off a couple more, I think, to 2025 for us to start building. Well, if anyone's followed construction costs, they know that's gone through the roof. So for us, the construction costs, if we said it was around 40 million, you can best bet that it's going to be a little bit more. So that the costing is going to be one thing. And then after, certainly we have to get the tenants and notwithstanding. And then after the last question, I always raise, and not to be just in tongue in cheek, but the province has to approve this. If you get a scenario where you get a provincial government, which is PC government, and the actual school itself is in the riding of the premier, what are the chances that the provincial government's going to give, a lack of a better term, is going to provide authority for allowing the school to move and bring all over that GDP and that financial impact to the city of Brampton? So with that said, that's out of our hands. What we can do is look internally, look what we can afford, look what this might mean for taxpayers. And last week at council, I threw out a number between 5 and 7%, not revealing any details of just doing the math. If you figure for every $5 million investment, usually equivalates, it equals 1% impact on the property tax. So, if you do the math and how much an innovation center costs, if that costs between 40 and $60 million, et cetera, et cetera. So, the math is quite clear. And that's just one area of need that we have at the city of Brampton. The question I would have residents: do you find your parks cleaner, as it was a couple years ago? Do you find the roads cleaner? Do you find your services better? And this is the challenge when you put a zero, and there has to be, you can't have no gain without pain. And unfortunately it seems that some of my colleagues, we got caught up in good news stories and great communication pieces, but similar to a household, if you don't budget properly, you can't afford the luxury. You can't afford the luxury vacations, and you can't afford the beautiful cars, and you got to sort of fix your holes and pipes and take care of your home. So I guess my last statement was, when Brampton residents vote for us, as much as I do appreciate a university and I'd like to bring university here, but our number one responsibility and our mandate is to deliver on our core services, which is road pavement, recreation, economic development, et cetera, et cetera. And I would love to see a provincial partner step up and support a university coming to Brampton, and have the government, because if I remind folks that under the Liberal government, we were very close. We had an announcement of Ryerson, and then there was a change of government, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and rightfully, there could have been a good reason that they didn't proceed with the project. So City of Brampton's advocating. It's just, I want an institution, but the question is, can we afford one, and what's the impact on residents?
Absolutely. When it comes to the hospital, has council been in discussion with any of the political parties about where that hospital would go in terms of zoning and any details? Has there
Well,
been
this
any
this
initial discussions?
I can't say I personally have, but I can tell you, council internally, we've identified an area in Northwest Brampton which we think would be a great location. And again, that is something that we're already putting our minds to where we'd like to see a third location. And there's already conversations, as much as we applied the 1%, which is the local community contribution 1% levy. And even though we said it's going to be a determined time between 5 to 10 years until we raise that outstanding portion, there are talks that we might have to continue it if we're already planning for a third hospital. So in terms of concretes, it's good to know that all three parties or all four parties are paying attention to the needs of Brampton, and we at council know that we have to sort of step up and sort of to take our sort of destiny in our own hands, and we sort of have a spot somewhat identified in terms of a third hospital.
And the Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca, has talked about building 200 schools and repairing 4,500 schools after he scraps Highway 413 and allocate that $10 billion. Now, is this something that the council will go after to be able to bring in new schools and upgrade the existing ones? If the Liberals are elected and Stephen Del Duca becomes premier.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is that's a school board responsibility, but certainly, regardless of what government comes in, if there is that opportunity to repair, be it schools or infrastructure, that's always a positive sign. But I would just remind you that this would be strictly the school board, and so I'm sure that's welcome news, and that's always welcome news when we get investment in education. As much as it's not a direct municipal responsibility, it's always great for the community when you get those investments.
Absolutely, on a school board level, but in terms of land and zoning, are there much available in Brampton for new schools?
Regarding new schools, so there are lands available, but the province themselves have real estate in the city of Brampton, and they would have the opportunity in terms of when it comes to planning issues. The province has primauté, or they essentially have the powers to zone what they deem fit, and obviously, the municipality, we would work with them on doing that. The city, in terms of our sort of real estate, we're limited in what we have because we have our municipal objectives, but the province and the federal government, they do own lands in the city, and certainly anywhere that we can cooperate and work with other levels of government for the betterment of the community, in this case education, we certainly would be an interested partner.
And sticking on to education, going back to Brampton University that has now been shelved, there has been a revelation that about 4 vendors were paid from 2019 to 2021, about $629,000 for consultation fees. They came out with 12 deliverables in terms of the strategy for this university and the labor economic assessment. And now we're hearing that the city level, they're not able to find some of these deliverables, and that was the amount paid out. Can you reveal a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we're just as a reminder to everyone watching, is that we don't get, for example, when the report is published publicly, it's published on our website. Council gets the same information that the public get. So under the Municipal Act, we can't receive, or we're not allowed to influence reports before they come to council. We're not allowed to, we have discussions with staff, but when a report is issued, is the same time councillors will see it. So there are some real sort of questions you have to ask. Is one, staff are not finding the reports or not finding the material. So what does that mean? So either we got very incompetent staff, or we got very staff who are no longer there, then this material never existed. So, you got to ask that. And then after you just bring in some of the whistleblower charges and the investigation we had previously, that there seems to be a cabal going on at the city of Brampton, and very similar, where people are involved who seem to have a history with materials and records getting lost. So that's extremely concerning. What you have concerning as well is that you have a consultant who takes on a contract, bills the city for travel that he did from the UK, bills the city for travel and accommodation even before he knew his company won the contract. And the rationale is based on that he had to come to Canada and come to, I guess, our neck of the woods to wait around to see if the contract was going to be successful. So this is the same individual who apparently one of the councillors on council refers to as her mentor. The same individual, where you have a councillor who travels to help this individual on an election that he ran out east in Halifax. And then you have another company involved where a stakeholder, a consultant, tells council that the government of the day was very interested in this project. Yet when you speak to the current government, they never received, according to them, correspondence which outlined any type of request for a Brampton U. So there's local discussion. So you have local MPs, local MPPs, sorry. You have the premier, you have the ministers, and nobody knows really what was going on. But you know that the city of Brampton taxpayers essentially got hosed for, I don't know how much money there. And the first question, if I was a resident, and I'd be damn angry like they should be, I would look at myself and look at all the councillors and say, why did you not know? How did this happen? Well, we approved, for example, we were told that someone received a contract for $160,000, and however, we approved the budget up to $600,000 on for one company, but it was $160,000 which we were told that was given to them, and we were told that the government was very interested. So, my question is, we'd like to bring in this consultant who told us A, B, and C. So we'd like to confront the consultant. Second, how does you have $160,000, which was told to us, all of a sudden because of change orders? And for people to know what change orders are, it's basically staff took it upon themselves, previous staff, to sign checks and give it to this company without our understanding or awareness. So that is extremely concerning. So the question is, if you can't find the materials, then you got to start to suspect there's a lot of wrongdoing, almost to the point, is there corruption here? So that's a serious allegation. And, certainly I'd look for more information, but if you just take a step back and you see everyone that's involved and you see sort of this, cabal of, this spider web of people involved, yet there's no materials, no one knows where anything is. And we on top, and this is what I find even more distressing, we have communication that goes out from the city, videos, website that talks about this Brampton U, yet the provincial government never received one document, according to provincial government, that there's no Brampton U. So what is going on here? So essentially, this Wednesday we have council. I do think that this is a larger issue than just poor decision making, and this reinforces for folks who were following why we made some changes months ago, and why people said, and I know that people look towards me as someone who really led the charge to make those changes at the city of Brampton. But this Brampton U example is exactly some of the stuff that we have to address. And when you see this happening, you can't just sit back idly and say, well, there's no plausible explanation. Money's been spent way more than we were told, way more than we understand. There's no deliverables or understanding where it came from. All the people are involved seem to be intertwined. And we're all sitting here, me as a councillor, I do not have an answer which is plausible or credible, because I myself am trying to uncover what happened. And if, I suspect there's wrongdoing, And I suspect that people have to be held accountable. And people do necessarily, there are counselors who we sent to the integrity commissioner to investigate relationships. And I'm afraid that there's more people involved and everybody has to be accountable for what happened. Unfortunately, sometimes, and we understand how complex this is, that residents don't understand the complexity of these type of issues. And white collar crime is not as simple as, when you look at crime, we think of the traditional sense. White collar crime is this type of sophistication sometimes, and I'm not suggesting that it is a criminal, but it's borderline at least. And I do think that people have to look at this. I do think that we need experts to come in and look at what transpired and what happened, because this is not just a question of $50,000, $100,000. And the question I would put out to residents: if we're just under $1 million on this Brampton U, what else don't we know in terms of what's missing at the city of Brampton?
Those are all valid questions and very concerning, as it's the Brampton residents that lose. So now Wednesday's council meeting, this will determine if there'll be investigation to follow on this matter?
We'll see what direction from councillors are, but I do plan on asking a lot more questions, and I'm not going to be satisfied by just saying Wednesday, okay, here's the answer. There were some bad rotten apples, and that's it. No, I think we have to really understand what happened here.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of the Integrity Commissioner, essentially, if you can let us know more about this, since the former Integrity Commissioner has been fired, as it came out, revealed that she had billed more than $500,000 to the city in less than 3 years. Since then, Sheikh has filed an application for judicial review with the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, in which she's alleging that the council violated Municipal Act when they terminated her contract. Can you share with us where that stands now?
Yeah, no, and that was surprising, but she has every right to do what she sees fit. Frankly, to be very clear, the Municipal Act gives council the right, as we engaged and we hired her, we have the same right to let her move on. I will not speak to her capabilities as an IC. She's a renowned employment lawyer. I wish her all the best, and we know as a renowned employment lawyer, that's her specialty. Regardless, there has been, media articles about her proximity to possibly the mayor, her husband or ex-husband, his sort of participation in Mayor Brown's campaigns, and her, I understand during, on CBC debates, has always been an advocate and staunch advocate for Mayor Brown. And again, that's been reported, but I can't, I won't elaborate on that. I'll just repeat what's been in the media. So I have no opinion either way. What I do have an opinion is that it's been more than $650,000 that we as Brampton taxpayers has paid. And just to give you an understanding, and again, I can't speak on every municipalities, but usually there's a flat rate when you hire someone for a municipality, and that flat rate could go from $80,000 to $100,000, and that's what they would spend on the term. Again, when we're over $650,000, and again, that is concerning. And that's no, by no means am I saying that's the fault of the IC. The IC does her investigations accordingly. But again, what I find, kind of funny in the situation. So on one attempt, this, council has within its right to change its bylaws. Under the Municipal Act, we have every right to change if it's a simple majority or a 2/3 majority to change a decision. At the City of Mississauga, at the Region Appeal, it's a simple majority. So some of my colleagues who failed to mention that, because they did in everything that they could to protect this IC, and they have to be asked and questioned why. I'm indifferent if it's this IC or another IC. I want value for money for the residents of Brampton, and I want someone who's going to be here neutral, who's going to provide their decisions to ensure a transparency and accountability for the city of Brampton. So for me, it's indifferent if it's A, B, or C. But what I do find, egregious and incredulous is that what this IC is suggesting, that the city of Brampton illegally changed, or council, and she referred to as a block. Well, that's disrespectful to me as a member of the board of directors, because that's suggesting that there's a block on the other side. So you had Mayor Brown, you had other councillors who constantly voted against something. So that is a block in itself. And if we're suggesting that's a block, then that's really lack of respect for us as councillors, as board of directors. The second aspect I would say is that, again, in terms of uniformity, if the city of Mississauga is allowed single majority to make a change of their IC, the region appeal, where I remind everyone, many of the councillors at Brampton sit at the region appeal, but yet in Brampton it was an issue, but I guess in Peel their mum's the word, and that's where I think there's a lot of underground politicking going on in backroom sort of conversations. But again, I'll leave that for the residents. But you gotta question: do I think legally there's a chance on that's going to be overturned? I would simply say if that was overturned and council cannot make its own decision, we're the ones who hired the person, and we're the ones who should have the right, for one reason or another, to end and terminate any contract. Anything other than that, then essentially, what are we doing here? I might as well just give the keys and wish everyone a good time and take over City Hall. That's not what it's about. So I'm fully confident that this judicial review has every right to do the judicial review. But I would just say that if this is the case, then really I'm disappointed that council's decision making and council's authority would be challenged this way. And certainly, I think that there's other sort of questions that I'll leave it for media to ask. Why certain councillors seem to want to defend this IC for one reason or another, when there's been issues at the region and at city, at other municipalities, that they seem to have no comments on. So I just think it's politics at its best, and unfortunately, it's disappointing that they drag in good people and drag in time and resources. And now we at the city of Brampton have to obviously fight this case, and we have to be a legal witness to this. So not only did a company or an individual come in, they made whatever money they made according to the services agreed to. But now for us to defend this, that means more taxpayers' money are going to be spent on this. So essentially, that's really sad, I think, all across the board. And that's what, I think that some of my colleagues should be discussing.
Yes, and I want to ask you about a report that was done by Williams HR Consulting Inc. in September 2020 in regards to looking at Black employees and how they feel at the city level. And the report found that there's anti-Black racism and culture of fear, essentially saying that the Black employees at the city felt that at a city level they were not being supportive as a Black employee. Can you share a little bit more about this report?
Well, the first thing I would say, my first reaction is, and I got to be very clear with residents, because residents sometimes have this misnomer or this idea that we as councillors, we interact with staff at all levels. Under the Municipal Act, it's very clear that we only work with the CAO through the CAO as responsibility. And we often, through briefings and discussions, will speak to our commissioner levels and our directors. However, with that said, I can't shrug any responsibility. So my first thought was disappointment in myself as a counselor, disappointment in not ensuring that we get best leadership that we can so these situations don't arise. My heart goes out to employees who showed courage to come forward and talk about their struggles and their concerns. So I would like publicly to say I am sorry. I'd like to publicly say that I do have responsibility as one of the counselors to ensure when we hire people, we hire good people, especially at the top. The buck does stop with us. And I think we have to own it. We have to learn from this, and we have to ensure that we ask difficult questions. I think often, especially someone like myself who has a reputation of being a little bit front forward and hard knocks in my questions to staff. It just reminds me that sometimes I guess I have to be a little bit more probe more and get more evidence on some of these issues, which often we're told are internal staffing issues. Again, we don't know about some of these internal staffing issues. We leave it to the CAO, but we're the ones who hire the CAO. So we have to take full responsibility. One thing I can be, again, publicly do state is that from my end, I will ensure that first we get the best people, and second, that I continue to ask what outcomes have come from this report, how are we striving, working towards it, and how we're going to improve the situation. And I will keep staff feet to the fire because we should not have any staff, no matter what ethnic origin, no matter what cultural heritage, that they feel that they are targeted, that they feel that there's lack of respect, and that they feel that they don't get a fair shot within our municipality. And then after they work and operate under fear. I would not want that for anyone I know. I would not want that for any staff person. And the fact that this happened under our watch to a certain degree, we have to stand up and take account. And so that's why I apologize again. And but I do plan on ensuring that action becomes the order of the day.
And finally, I have to ask you about Brampton's cricket stadium, which is to cost about $60 million, has permanent seating for 5,000, could go up to 20,000 for big games. Where are we at with this massive stadium project?
Well, we had agreed to, and I believe there's going to be a call for proposals, and that's going to be released publicly, where we're looking at a private-public partnership possibly, because again, if you just threw out a good figure of 60 million, if we remember, we talked about Guelph Humber, that's another 40 to 60 million. So, start doing the math. Again, I remind everyone, 1% equals $5 million. 1% increase on the tax bill is $5 million spent. So in terms of the cricket stadium, what I love, which is going to be a multi-sport stadium, whatever sports can do I love the idea of having a stadium? Yes, I'm a big sports person. I want the sports stadium. I love it. Second, I think we need more entertainment value in the city of Brampton? Definitely. So if we can get a stadium that takes around 5,000 people, and I think can scale up to 20,000 based on whatever events we have, be it concerts or so on, I think we'd be primed, and it would be amazing to get some world-renowned concerts coming from all over the world right here in Brampton, and getting that type of audience. Now, the big question comes back to, can we afford it? And I hate to be a broken record, but municipalities' investments in sports infrastructure is one of the most challenging sort of investments that you can have. And I'll give you the example is that I know the city of Toronto, they have that corporate partnership with BMO in terms of the BMO field, which Toronto FC plays. But that's a professional organization that plays on a weekly basis, and they use it for other activities. So, the question I always have is that, our number one function and responsibility is to give opportunities to residents. If we're having a stadium that we operate and we have to basically make money off of to be able to offset the costs. Now, the question is, do we think amateur groups, because I know one of the misnomers is I've had a lot of amateur cricket groups really excited, say, Councillor, you got to support this. But if we need to sort of put bums in seats and make money off of this, what are the chances our amateur teams or house league teams are going to get access to the stadium? So, those are the part of the conversations, but let's see what comes back in proposals in terms of private-public partnerships. And we might be pleasantly surprised with some great ideas, which is not going to cost the city too much, and we can get a private entity building. So I'm excited. At the same time, I'm cautious.
Thank you so much for your time today. Any final words?
Final words I would say is please get out there and vote. And we know participation in elections seems to be reduced. Provincial election, as you suggested, June 2nd, they're important issues for the city of Brampton. So we encourage every resident to get out there, express your opinion, vote. And I remind everyone as well, for those interested in municipal elections, that if you want to put your name on the ballot, the final date, I believe, is August 23rd. So you do have an opportunity. You go on the City of Brampton's website and you can register as a candidate, and then after we have our elections coming up. So please let's participate in the process and let people know what's important for Brampton.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor and Regional Councillor Martin Medeiros. This was an exclusive interview with him on Y Media Political Sensex. Thank you again.